Hello, I'm Beck. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be drawing a D&D character based on the roll of the dice.
Let's bring out the Tower of Destiny!
So as you can see on my gorgeous table, I could have gone with Aarakocra, which is kind of just all bird folk, or Owlin or Kenku. And I went with Owlin because I thought it was the most interesting, and I don't think I've actually ever drawn an Owlin before. I've done a few different Aarakocra of different bird species, but an Owlin is specifically an owl. I think they have higher stealth than your standard Aarakocra stats. You'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the main difference between an Owlin and an Aarakocra. And partnering it up with Barbarian is very interesting because it would mean that you have a Barbarian who's good at stealth, so you maybe don't see them until they're right on top of you, which could be a lot of fun. And also owls are predatory, so it's weird that I'm usually seeing Owlin drawn as very gentle, sort of cleric, sometimes cutesy kind of figures, I guess because owls are very round and they have the big eyes, so they're naturally predisposed to be cute, but they're hunters, so it makes sense to make them a little bit of a badass. I did want to stay faithful to the roundness of an owl though, so I made her a little bit chonky. I turned what would normally be the sort of fluffy feathers into muscles on her upper half, and then I think owls do kind of have pretty muscular legs anyway. Like, they're covered in feathers, so you don't really see them. Maybe it's just fluffy feathers, but they do have insane chonky legs, so I kept that as well. I wanted to have a really muscular looking barbarian Owlin woman. I did struggle a lot with this one in terms of posing and in terms of like getting a feminine figure to be super muscular. That's not something I'm used to drawing. Usually I'll draw a guy who's super muscular and then a woman who's more skinny and gentle curves and all the very stereotypical stuff. So it was good to get out of my comfort zone here, and had her kind of wearing not very much because I wanted it to fall into the wearing light things so that she could fly, but also I was so focused on trying to get the anatomy right that I'm like, well, now that it looks the way I like it, I'm not covering it up with clothes. So that's a little bit of a cheat there. I really like the way that I got her arms to actually look like muscular arms and not just blobs of fat, and in terms of keeping a feminine figure while still having muscular legs and muscular arms and like big hands, sort of having all the features be big ends up making it look like, not big. That thing of like, if everything's big, then in terms of scale nothing is big. You have to have some things be small, so I kept the head kind of small in comparison to everything else, breaking one of my main rules of anatomy, which is a character's breasts are almost never going to be the same size or bigger than their head unless they've had some sort of surgery or they're morbidly obese. Naturally, your breasts will be smaller than your head, but this is an Owlin, so their anatomy's a little bit different because her head's round and not human skull shaped, and I needed to demonstrate that she's got a huge body, so her head had to be small, if that made sense. And also trying to give a bird a smirk is difficult drawing, like, because beaks are hard to make smile. I had to look up some references of cartoons where they have birds as characters to see how they gave them expressions, because I was looking at photos where all the birds look the same. They all just look like they're staring at you. So I think I managed a decent looking smirk in the end. And I gave her a little bit of armor. I think it's called a pauldron, just that arm barrier thing. In order to fly, she needs to have light armor anyway, so I think it's okay. As for her arms/wings, I've seen kind of varied artwork where the arms are their wings, or they have wings that are separate to their arms. I thought it made more sense to have arms that were separate to her wings, because she would need to hold weapons and also be in flight. I couldn't really find any definitive stats saying how the wings work, just that they have a flight speed so they can fly. I assume that they have arms that are separate because they can fight while they're flying. Their only limitation is if they have heavy weaponry or heavy armor that would affect their ability to fly. So yeah, I did the wings separately. Also, as you can see, I decided to give her an eye patch. Now, I can't really decide if I want it to be an eye patch that's covering an injury, like she got in a scuffle and hurt or lost her eye, or if it's from the, I don't know if this is a myth or if it's real, but the sort of stories of how sailors or pirates used to use an eye patch to help them adjust to the difference in light between being on the sunny deck or going below where it would be very dark. So it would help them adjust to the dim light very quickly. I kind of like that idea of an owl who is obviously a better hunter at night having some way to adjust its eyesight to the brightness of the sun. But probably she got it in a fight, let's be real. She's a barbarian. Now, looking at her stats, we can see that her charisma, I can say the word, charisma is the highest out of all her stats. And despite the cliche of charisma equating to like sexiness or whatever, it's really more of a force of personality or self-confidence. So I think that in her case, it's very much her ability to intimidate people. She's an intimidating looking lass, and she's very confident within herself. So that would explain her +3 charisma. I suspect that growing up she had siblings and she was the one who would dominate them. She would always be the one in charge. She was kind of the alpha sibling, as you might know it, which in my opinion probably means she was the youngest. She would have started out as the littlest and been the loudest. And as time progressed, she grew and really worked on her muscles and things and eventually became the biggest and the loudest. So that is where her +3 charisma came from. Next highest is strength, surprising no one. I think we've kind of covered where her strength is coming from. Moving straight on to dex and wisdom. So having +1 means she's kind of above average in both. She's had enough life experiences to be a little bit wise, and she's learned how to use a varied range of weapons and knows how to work with her fingers, open locks and things like that. Not the greatest in the world, but better than average. So she might have had a few dodgy dealings where she needed to learn stuff like that. And now for constitution, she's just average. And I usually equate constitution to what they can eat and what they can metabolize, largely because I personally am all about food. But it's not just that, it's stamina and ability to like have your body withstand anything, really. So it could be like a massive shock force, or like if you're on a ship and it tilts and your ability to hold on, although that might be strength. I have to look up that. whatever. Point is, she's just average at that. She usually, I would say, relies more heavily on her strength than her constitution. And then intelligence, she's just not interested in the book learning or anything that intelligence requires, so she's a -1. She has the wisdom to kind of compensate a lot of the time, but she just doesn't really see the point in things that relate to intelligence, so she hasn't grown very much in that area. Now, in terms of her upbringing, we've already covered that she's the youngest of a bunch of siblings. I think probably her parents weren't around a lot, so it was very much the case of the eldest sibling, I can't talk today, the eldest sibling kind of raising the younger siblings, but given that they're all children, there is that element of like, the elder sibling never broke up a fight, but made sure that the youngest never actually got hurt, which gave her a false sense of how strong she was. And there were probably a lot of fights among the family, and as she got older, she would have started fights with other kids who probably didn't know she was supposed to win. They didn't get that memo because they're not in her family. So she quickly learned that she can't just beat everyone, she has to actually get strong and actually get her barbarian skills on. And I think that's how she developed her strength and her vibe, her confidence in fighting. And I don't know what her parents necessarily did. Maybe they were very bookish, quiet types who were a little bit upset about having a barbarian daughter, but learned to embrace it because that's who she is. And she went off to adventure with other exciting people. I think she probably went out looking to join an adventuring party, someone who could use her skills and maybe up her ego a little bit whenever she goes into a fight and just wallops everyone. She has that unique skill set that she can sneak up on people despite being a huge barbarian, which, you know, is pretty rare. Usually a barbarian doesn't really care about being stealthy. In fact, there is a little bit of a motto saying, if you're good at fighting, you don't need to hide. And while that's true, it never hurts to be like, hey, guess what? Bam, you're unconscious. It's just fun. That's just a bit of fun to have during a game. So I think that's pretty much her. She's a simple lass with a cool vibe going on. I don't think she has any particular like trauma in her history that she needs to work through. I don't think she needs any kind of call to adventure where something that's very precious to her has been taken. I think that maybe her adventuring party would become very precious to her, like a surrogate family when she is away from her real family. But apart from that, I don't think she's not super deep. She doesn't need that kind of psychoanalysis going on. She just likes to do what she does, and that's what she's all about. I haven't given her a name yet. Shall we call her Helga? I think Helga is a good name for her, so we'll stick with that one, and I think I'm pretty much done now. Yeah, just adding some final touches, and yeah, this is Helga. What do we think of her? Let me know in the comments, and if you've ever played a Owlin Barbarian before, definitely let me know. And if I've stuffed up any information that I presented as fact, also let me know, because things I said I'm going to look up, I'm not going to look them up. Let's be real. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and see you next time. Okay, bye!